Hello and welcome to my channel, Kaylee Creations. I'm Kay, and this is the first tutorial for the mini album set that I created for ReneaBouquets. Now this is the Autumn Garden Fairy set. So there is this mini album, there's the fence that it sets in, or the little box, and also I made a wall decor or a plaque that can sit on an easel, either one. And so this is the tutorial for that. In this tutorial, we will just be doing the mini album and um, the uh, the fence and the board, and the embellishing of this album will be done in a following video. So I want to tell you what products that I used from Prima Marketing. So the papers I used were the Autumn Sunset, and so I wanted to let you know about all those because I know that it's a seasonal item, and so they do sell out sometimes. And so I'll give you the product list here, and I will also put it in the description box below. The products from ReneaBouquets will also be listed below, but I will talk about those in the following video. And so the papers that you'll need for the Autumn Sunset are this 8x8 paper pad and the 3x4 journaling card and the 4x6 journaling card. And then I used a little bit from each of the ephemera packs. There's two different ephemera packages, and I used a little bit from each. So you'll need those as well. And then also I used this one sheet of 12x12 paper, and it's called Autumn Morning. And then for the board or the plaque, you're going to need this piece. It's called Fall Flight. If you're not doing the board, then you don't need to worry about that one. And so those are the papers that I used. Now, the flowers, you could probably just use whatever flowers you wanted, but if you wanted to duplicate what I did here on the fence, you're going to need this spray of flowers, and this is the falling leaves. And so it comes with two in a package. It comes with the small one and the large one, and I used two of these packages. I used one on this fence, and then I used one on the board, the smalls here and the large ones here. And so and for the other flowers, I will have a list in the description box for that, and I will also have a list for the ReneaBouquets products as well. Okay, so oh, excuse me. So and then also you will need some ivory or off-white cardstock, and you're going to need a cardstock that's very it doesn't have to be super heavy. It could be a 65-pound to an 80-pound, just something that you feel folds well for you and is not, too bulky for making a mini album. So some kind of a linen paper or a really good cardstock in an ivory color. You're not going to see much of it, so if you only have a white or a beige or a craft color, that will work too, okay? You're going to need 2 sheets of 12x12 or 3 sheets of 8.5x11. And the tools that we're using are a scoreboard and the score tool, a trimmer. You're going to need some scissors and something that punches about 1/4 inch or 3/8 of an inch hole. And you're going to need a bone folder and two sets of magnets, and it doesn't have to be a huge size, about a medium size. Or if you're using the basic gray, you could probably use either size on those. You don't really need the big ones, the smaller size will do. And so 2 sets of magnets, so 4 magnets in total. And I use the Tim Holtz Distress ink in the scattered straw. And then you'll need some kind of adhesive. You can use a liquid glue or score tape. And but you will probably need a liquid glue eventually to glue down your small and tiny embellishments. So I do recommend having a liquid glue on hand, but we won't get to that in this video. And so now we'll get into the sizes of the paper that you need. So you're going to take from your 12 by 12 sheet of paper, and you can get 3 5 by 7 pieces out of one 12 by 12 piece of paper. So to do that, you're going to take your 12 by 12 piece of paper, cut it at 7 inches first, and then take that 7-inch piece you just cut and cut 2 5 by 5s out of that. And the piece you have left over will be 5 inches, and then just cut that at 7 inches. And so you should get 3 5 by 7 pieces out of one sheet. And then the next sheet you just need the 2, and from those remaining pieces you'll get these others. So you're going to need 5 pieces of 5 by 7, and then from what's left over you're going to need 4 7-inch tall pieces by 1.5. So 4 pieces of paper that are 1.5 inches wide and 7 inches long. And those you are going to score at 1 inch, 1/2 inch and 1 inch. And then you want to, this is where you're going to need your bone folder. You're going to burnish and fold those and burnish the edges really well. And then the end you're going to trim. You're just going to angle those. I don't know if you can see. Here's my score line right here, and I'm going to angle this piece of paper up to that, just shy of that score line. That's so when our hinges are on the book, you're not going to see that edge sticking out from behind your design paper. It's just going to give your book a cleaner finish. So you should have a piece that looks like that. So there's a 1/2 inch gusset here from my book, and then I've got these angled edges. So you have 4 of those. Okay, and then you're also going to need a piece that is 1 inch wide by 7 inches long, and you're going to score that down in the middle at 1/2 inch. So it's going to be scored at 1/2 inch. Then you're going to need a piece that is 5 3/4 long by 1 inch wide, and you're also going to score that down the middle at 1/2 inch. Then you're going to need 4 pieces. That's a total of 4 pieces at 2 inches long by 1 inch wide, and you're also going to score those down the middle at 1/2 of an inch. And that's it for your cardstock. So this is how I did the Alice in Wonderland album, if you've seen that one, and you followed the tutorial on that one. It's actually simpler because I did not, that one had added chipboard pieces on the cover, and this one is just really straightforward, really simple. So you're going to take your first 5x7 piece, and then your scored and folded and trimmed pieces here. I'm just going to burnish that again really good. And I'm going to adhere, I'm going to fold this side down here, and then I'm going to take that edge, that folded edge, and line it up to this edge of my 5x7 paper. And so that's where I'm going to glue it. So if I get out of frame here, at least you'll know what I'm doing. I'm going to turn it this way so I can see it a little bit better. Okay. And then you're going to take the second 5x7 piece. So now we have, when it's, the inside here has the hinge, the hinge part that we just glued on right there. So when you fold it this, or turn it over this way, you've got your 5x7 piece, your 1/2 inch gusset, and then the other flap hinge that's angled on the edges here. So I'm going to take my 5x7 and glue it to that hinge right there. Oh my goodness, I'm out of focus. Hang on. It wants to do that when I've got this white paper. So anyway, I'm going to glue it on like that. So usually to do that, I fold it. I have the paper, the hinge folded this way, and I line up my paper and I glue it on like that, just so it's easier for me to see. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can hear my dog snoring. I don't know if you can hear that. So I've gotten quite a few comments on this project, and some people saying they wanted to recreate this exactly how I did it. So that's why I wanted to hurry and get this tutorial out so I could show you what Prima product I was using, because it's seasonal and I know it's selling out. So the ReneaBouquets items, don't worry, you'll be able to get them. Okay, don't have to panic on that one. So, and I will go over all those products as we go along. Okay, so now you have a piece that looks like a little mini book with just 2 pages. So now I'm going to take your second hinge piece. I'm just going to, I like to burnish as I go along too. I just think it helps. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this hinge here and fold it down, and I'm going to line up my so I have the 5x7 here with you can see the angled hinges glued on the inside here. I'm gluing this on the outside, if that makes sense. So here's the outside. So this piece where you can see the hinge is on the inside. This is the outside, where all you see is the spine piece. So I'm going to glue this, fold this here, and glue this onto this 5x7 right on the top there. along the fold. But as I was saying, I have had a lot of people comment and saying they want to recreate. And then I have had a few comments saying that they like this, but they they wanted to try it with maybe a different Prima line. I had one comment about using the Pretty Pale, and so I think this design would be beautiful with that Prima Pretty Pale. I'm not super familiar with it. I did look it up online to see the papers, and they're very pretty. And a different style than this Autumn Sunset, but still very pretty. And I think the Sweet Garden Fairy would go with so many different paper lines. So if you have a different Prima paper or even a different other brand of paper that's maybe kind of shabby or soft in color, I think it would go really well. And all we need to do is just change up the flowers a little bit. And so I am doing this project here in a completely different paper line, just to show you. And so I will talk about that in a little bit. But yes, the Pretty Pale would be very pretty. And so then the same thing, we've got this hinge on the end here that we want to add a piece of paper to. So it's the angled hinge right there, and we're going to take our next 5x7 and put it on that hinge. Now you don't want to go over that score line. If you do, your book will not fold right. So make sure you're just going up next to it and not going too close or over that score line. But yeah, that Sweet Garden Fairy would go with so many different, because it's such a soft color, that champagne or that soft beige color dress that she's wearing, and her hair color, and then the wings are white with the little bit of tint to the glitter there. So I think it would go with a lot of different paper collections. I almost used one of the Mente paper collections, but the item that I wanted to use on the cover was just a little too big, and so I'm going to save it for a different album. So I will probably, one of these days, I will get that done and I'll show you. So I'm going to tape this next one to the top of a 5x7. Make sure I don't go past the edge of that 5x7 paper. So you're just repeating what we've done. Just keep doing it over till you're done. And you can definitely use score tape on this. I think for this video the glue is a little bit faster to use than the score tape, because putting the score tape on, taking the backing off. But actually, usually when I'm doing stuff like this, I like to use the score tape because I could take my time, line it up, pull that backing off, and have it be right there. And if I make a mistake, it's a little more forgiving than this art glitter glue does not, come off. So, okay, so again, I'm folding this this side down, placing it over the top of this 5x7 at the edge there, right up next to the score line, like that. Got a little too much glue on that one. My little handy wipe. Oh, I got glue on that spine right there. Oh shoot, I'm sorry. This, for some reason when I work with this white paper, my camera wants to go out of focus. Stop it. Okay. And the last one. Got a little too much glue again. Okay, so that's it. That is our album. That's all there is to it. Almost. And you know, you can go ahead and go through and burnish the folds here. Okay. So that's it for that. Okay. Okay, so when you open this up, we have our first page here, and I have put 5x7 pieces of design paper down, and then did the pocket. So I will do one, but they're both identical. So I'll show you one, and then you can do the other one. But just to keep this video shorter, I'm just going to do one for now. So I am going to go over the paper. I'm going to take these out so we can talk about the paper that I used. And if you're curious, I pulled mine out of the vault. I'm using Vintage Emporium. It's an older Prima collection, and it's one that I had purchased, and honestly the colors and the papers were a little bit bewildering for me. I just it was a lot of neutrals, and individually I love the collection, but the papers together, there were so many various shades of creams and beiges, and some were very peach toned, and some were almost a greenish, almost a greenish hue, and some were then there was some pink in there, and anyway, it was a little overwhelming for me, but I thought, you know what, if I can make this work with this paper, you can just use anything with this album. Okay, I forgot to cut the edge off that. So on this paper, you're going to need 2 pieces of this paper here with a little fox in the corner. There's 5 papers of each design in the 8x8 pad. And so this particular paper, you're going to use 3 pieces of paper in total. But for now, you just need 2 of these pieces of paper, And the first one on the page 1, you're going to cut from the top. You're going to cut from the top to the bottom. You're going to cut 7 inches. So when it's in your trimmer, and I don't know, some people do their trimmer with this on the bottom and some do it on the top, but I do mine on the bottom. So just remember, if you get confused, just remember you're cutting from the top to the bottom 7 inches. So you would be scoring, or you'd be cutting this one at 7 inches first. So and my top's on this side. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut this one just to show you. I don't have enough papers to show you all of them, cutting all of them. And then because I want, on this particular one, I want this paper, I want this edge. So I'm going to turn it around and place this at 5 inches. So whichever way, if you're putting your cutter this way, or whatever paper trim you have, as long as this left side here is measuring at the 5-inch point, and you're cutting off here. Okay, so you're going from 0 to 5 inches, or 5 to 0 inches, however you want to do it. And then so I don't want to cut them all out because I might need to explain more. So so on this page, you're going to cut from top to the bottom at 7 inches, and then you're going to cut from this side over 5 inches. Okay, it's only 8 inches. You can't get 2 out of here. So the first one, top to bottom, 7 inches, then 5 inches from the left, and on the second page, 5 inches from the right. So then you'll have your 2 pieces of paper, and then you can just, before I glued them onto my book, I distressed the edges. And I just distressed the edges of the inside page first. So once this was cut, I distressed this inside page with my scissors. And let me just show you, I can show you with just this piece here that I cut off. I just took my scissors and it just, I don't know if you can really see in the camera, but it just distresses the edges and makes them all shaggy, and you're going to get a lot of paper dust. So if you're sensitive, use a mask. Use one of those breath masks, because I did breathe in some paper, I'm pretty sure. Because I distressed the whole book, made it all shabby. So I just distressed the insides though that go up against the binding, or the hinges and the gussets, because once I had them glued on, then I distressed the whole other 3 edges. Okay, so can I go ahead and cut this one, or what's the other piece that I'm using for this? 4.5 by 4.5. Yeah, I can go ahead and. No, I can't cut that. I'm sorry, I only have the 1 piece of paper to show you right now. I did order another pad, but I don't have it yet. So I was just going to show you how I'm just going to lay that. I'll show you with this one. I'll show you with the one I'm doing. How about that? Okay. So this is going to be my page 1 with this Vintage Emporium. So on this particular book, I did a really heavy hand with Vintage Photo. And so I have distressed this edge here, this left edge that goes up on the page here. And then I am just going to glue the whole thing down. And so if you're, if you're for some reason your edges don't quite match up, don't worry too much about it because you're just going to take your scissors and just dress it. So I'm just going to line up. Now if you're using a different collection, different paper than this Autumn Sunset, and you're not sure how to choose your papers, if that is worrying you or anything, because I know when I first started, I was, even now I'm kind of picky, and I sometimes I still stress over one paper over the other to put on a page. I mean, not a bad stress, like I'm freaking out stress, but it's a fun stress, like, which paper should I use? So, so just a guideline, if you are doing a different, like for example, if you're doing the pretty pale like someone suggested, I would try to choose a paper that has maybe corners or a border on it, and it can be a little plain here. And then your pocket, you can just pick from scraps. Do your pockets last, okay? I'm going to show you to do it now in the tutorial, but this is something that you can use your scraps, so kind of just choose what you like to do. I will show you how to cut the papers for this in case you do want to do on the Autumn Sunset exactly this way. If you're using an 8x8 pad and you're cutting a 4x6 photo mat out of that, you can get 2 4x6 photo mats out of one 8x8 paper. And if you cut it at 6 inches from top to bottom and then cut it at 4, you got your 2 photo mats, and then you have 2 pieces that are 2 inches by oh, I'm sorry, that doesn't work, does it? That's only 4 inches. No, I'm sorry. Oh, I told you wrong. I'm thinking it's 12 by 12 paper. Yeah, just use your scraps from those 4x6 though, and you can get one from one paper and one from the next. So, my bad. Okay, so anyway, I have my page 1 here. So now that it's on here, hang on, I got one little piece that I did not glue down. Very good. So now I can go and take my scissors and distress the top, the outside, and the bottom there, like that. Okay? And okay, so you're going to need a 2-inch piece tall by a 2-inch by 5-inch piece of paper. So just pick something that has a design that you like. If you're using this paper here, let me tell you how to cut that. Okay, so you want to cut from the bottom a 2-inch piece. So you want to start from the bottom to here and cut 2 inches, and then you're going to cut that, you're going to have a strip of paper and you're going to cut that at 5 inches, and that'll give you your first pocket. Like I said, I would do the pockets last and see what scraps you have, and then So then you're going to have this piece, and then so I went ahead and inked it, and I don't know if I remember, I told you I used this scattered straw. If I didn't, I did use this Tim Holtz just scattered straw, and I did lightly go over just the corners of the album. Okay, and I used my little tool. I didn't do it directly from the pad, but I'm just showing you that I did do the corners here and here and there, just like that. Sometimes I went down the edges, occasionally I went down the middle. It was just a very light distress with the ink. I didn't do as heavy-handed, obviously, as I did this one here. And then for the pocket, that's where you're going to need your 2-inch pieces. And so they're 2 by 1, so you've scored at the 1-inch side at a 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to fold that and burnish it down the middle. And then I want to angle those edges. So this is my fold line here. So I'm going to angle this edge. And I'm going to hold this up here and make sure it's not too long. It's a little long, so I'm going to go ahead and trim that. It doesn't matter if it's exact. It can be a little bit shorter. In fact, it might even be helpful to be just a little bit shorter. I'm going to flush it to the top though, so that on the bottom I have a little more room there. And so then I'm just going to take one side and glue it onto my pocket. So that fold line is going to go right to the edge of this piece of paper. So like that. And I'm going to do it on the other side. I'll measure the length here. It's a little long. So I just trimmed it. And same thing. Take that fold line and put it against the edge. Okay, so now I have a pocket, and I did not do, a piece on the bottom. I just didn't feel the need to. It's gonna hold plenty for what this book is. If you need, if you need thicker stuff, you could do I would make the whole entire pocket out of cardstock, if you know how to do that, and then glue my design paper on top. But this is just a simple small album. I don't think it needs to hold a whole lot. And I think it holds quite a bit actually for what it is. So I just glued down those other sides of the hinges and glued them on the sides here. And then I'm going to go in and just do a really thin line of glue. If you get too much glue, you're going to lose the depth of your pocket. You just want to glue a really thin bead of glue on the bottom. Okay. So normally I let that dry, but I just want to see. So now I have my pocket there. Okay, so, and then you just do the same thing on the other side. I did, the same design paper on this other side. But like I said, I'd wait and see what scraps you have because I don't know. I hesitate to. I'm trying to find my pen. I hesitate to do little things like that because if I make a mistake and I don't have enough scraps or whatever, I want to get my base pages down first. So on the second page here, let me get page 2 here. Or not page 2, I want page 3. We already did page 2. Page 1 and page 2 are the same, so I want page 3. Okay. This one's probably the trickiest page in the whole album, and it's not necessarily hard to do, it's just, it's going to take a little effort though, I guess. I forgot to trim these tops off the paper. The little edges that were glued onto the paper pad. Okay. So page 3, you're going to need 3 pieces of this design. And you're saying, what in the heck? Why do I need 3? So I actually used this paper here on the back of the page. And so you would do that first. You're going to cut from top to bottom at 7 inches. And then you're going to cut from this side to here at 5 inches. Okay? And so once you've done that, then go ahead and distress this right side here of the paper, glue it into your book, and then distress the other 3 sides. No, I'm sorry, I told you wrong. Don't glue it. Don't glue it. Go ahead and cut it to 5 by 7. Distress this right side of the paper, and then we are going to glue the flap in first. Yeah, you should always watch my videos before you actually do. Well, I forget things and I make mistakes. So, learn from my mistakes. So this is where you're going to need the piece that is 7 inches by 1 inches. And you've scored it in the middle at 1/2 inch. And so I'm just going to fold it. And same as we did with the hinges and your pockets, you're going to want to angle those edges from the fold line. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It doesn't have to be a huge angle, just enough to get that edge off. And so I am, that's not the piece I'm using, hang on. I don't know where the piece I'm using is. Right here. Nope. Right here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to be using this piece for my book, but for your book, if you're doing the Autumn Sunset, now if you're doing a different paper collection, just any piece of paper will do. It doesn't have to be something like this where you cut it out. Now, if you happen to have a piece that you can cut out the little design and match it up to your paper, go for it. But so what I did is I have my 5 by 7 piece here, and so okay, so I have my 5 by 7 here, And so I cut this from top to bottom 7 inches, and then so I cut it from here to here 7 inches, and then I took, now you're going to need that other side, so be very careful to when you cut from top to bottom, that when you're cutting this side here, this edge here, don't cut out too far from that butterfly, because you're going to be using the paper from here to here, okay? And so I cut top to bottom 7 inches, and then if you can see, there is, in the design of the paper, there is a line that goes down here to that part of the ephemera here. It's really hard to see, but I think you can see it best right here. But there's a line in the design of the paper that goes all the way down. So what I did is I took my fussy cutting scissors and I cut up that line to, I didn't cut it right to the edge of the butterfly. I left a little bit. I did well, this is the one I did, and I cut it right up to the butterfly, and I didn't like it. So I did another one where I cut the one that I used. You could see there's a little bit of a halo or a border around the butterfly. I just thought that looked better. So, but if you like it better cut next to the butterfly, then you can do that too. That's what I did on this one. So you're just going to cut up that line there, and then you're going to fussy cut around your butterflies. Do the straight edge there with your fussy cutting scissors, and then go around and then do all the way up. So if you have another, if you're using the pretty pale and you happen to have a design that you could do that, go for it. Just, think out of the box. It doesn't have to be a butterfly there. It could be something else in your design paper. Or it can just be on this one. I'm just going to use a plain rectangle and do some ephemera. So, you can do that too. So once you have this piece cut out, and you might want to trim, all the way down, just to, kind of there, so that you're not ruining this, because you're going to need that piece of your second piece of paper. So your first paper, you're cutting out the 5x7. The second piece, you're cutting this out. You're also going to be using this right side, so set that one aside. And then once you've done that, then you're going to glue this into your book. So we have, make sure you're double checking that you're doing everything right side up. You're not gluing anything backwards or whatever. So you got your first page here. You want to turn it. So this is our third page. This is our second page. This is our third page. And so we're going to put the, you're going to use your distress ink a little bit on your corners. You don't have to go too heavy. I went very subtle with it. And so now I'm going to glue this onto this hinge here. And I want it to go, I want the fold is going, actually maybe it's just easier to do it this way. So the fold is going to be on this outer side. So 1, 2, page 3, this fold of this hinge is on the outer side. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. So I hope I'm explaining well. I've had a couple of people that said they're novice scrapbookers, and which is great, and it's just, just don't be afraid to just jump right in. You're gonna make mistakes. Even I make mistakes all the time still. So don't stress about it. Just there's usually a way to fix it. And so then you're going to glue your piece down here. So you have your little flap on the end, and you're going to glue this down like so. Okay. Now I'm using this, so I'm just going to go ahead and glue mine down. Okay. All right, so that seems like it's a little crooked, so I'm going to hold that up and burnish that fold down so it's a little straighter. All right, so you have that piece there, and there will be a magnet, but we're not going to do that in this video. We're just going to go through and get all our pages glued down. So now you can glue your 5x7 that you cut here. Okay. I did not put the magnet on this paper. I put it on the pocket. So you can go ahead and glue your 5x7 down, and you're probably saying, what about this? We're going to cover that. We're going to cover that, and so what you're going to do to cover that is on the piece of paper that you cut this from, let me just make sure I'm right here. Let me look at my notes. No, I'm sorry. Okay. Not this piece. The piece that you cut your 5x7 from. So you had your piece that you cut top to bottom 7 inches, and then you went over 5 inches. So you have 3-inch strip left, a 3x7 inch piece left. That 3x7, it's already 7 inches. You just need to cut it to 2 1/4. Measure, because just make sure, because we cut from that line. We didn't actually measure 2 1/4 over. We cut from the line on the design paper, which is pretty close to 2 1/4. So you're going to cut from the other side of the 5x7 that you cut from. You're going to cut that 3x7 inch piece down to 2 1/4x7. And it's this plain, it's this design on the back. So you're going to, but you're not going to glue that yet. We're going to put the magnet on, so just set that aside. So take your, so you cut it at 2 1/4x7 and just set it aside. So it's all cut and set aside. But you can go ahead and glue your 5x7 down. Don't forget to distress your edges on both sides of this one before you put it down in your book. And then once it's glued down, you can distress the top and the bottom. But you've got folds here on the left and right, so you're going to have to distress the sides first of your 5x7. Okay, so now we're going to move on to page number 4. And page number 4 is page number 4 is this paper with the butterflies going across. So this one, it doesn't really matter where you start cutting it from. You just need a 5x7 piece. So from here, you just need a piece that's cut 5x7. Okay, obviously you want the 7 down, 5 across, but it doesn't matter which side you cut the 5 inches from. So just go ahead and cut that 5 by 7 and distress your left edge and your right edge because you're going to have this piece glued on now. So before you glue anything down, you've just cut this at 5 by 7, but you're not gluing it down yet. And you're going to take your piece that is 5 3/4 by 1 inch, and you've scored it in the middle at 1/2 inch. So just fold that down and burnish it. You don't need to angle the edges on this one because it does not go to the edge of the paper. So you're going to take your 5 by 7 card, and on the particular paper I'm using, I did not have any 4 by 6 journaling cards. So I just cut a piece of paper and rounded the corners with the small corner rounder, the small size. And so for the Autumn Sunset book, you're using a 4 by 6 card, and then I just distressed it. And same thing, we're just going to, this one I think it's just going to be easier to glue it on the hinge first. So I want the right side of my journaling card up to the edge of the fold. And you're going to center it because it's 6 inches. That's why I had you cut this hinge at 5 3/4, because you don't want it to go straight down because it's curved. It's got that round corner. So I'm just going to put the glue here. My hinge is a little long, so I'm just going to take my scissors and cut that little corner off my hinge. It won't hurt anything as far as function. And you can even distress it with the hinge on. Just be careful not to really distress your fold, or it'll weaken your fold. So that's why it's better to do your distressing on the ones that go up against a hinge. It's better to distress it before you attach it. So I just want to make sure I'm doing the right page here. So I've got, it's going across from this page here. So I'm just going to eyeball center this. It doesn't have to be exact in the center. If you're worried about being exact in the center, then go ahead and measure with your ruler, but I'm not super worried about how exact it is. I think I can get it close enough. If this video ends up too long, I'll have to break it down. So okay. So there we have this, and on this particular one, we're putting a 4.5 by 4.5 inch piece of paper pretty much in the center there. Once we get our design paper down, but I think that it's not a pocket, so I think a magnet will be okay. But I think that it would be even better to wait and put the design paper on first, and then the 4x4 piece, the magnet can go in between. So go ahead and glue your 5 by 7 down, and it's this paper here with the butterfly. So go ahead and glue your 5x7 down into your book. And the one I'm doing is I took the page off. That one too. I don't know if it's this one or the other one. I'm pretty sure it's this one, but I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay. So I've got my 5x7 here, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to glue mine down because I'm running out of time here, but this is how my pages are going to go. And so I'm just going to wait and do the magnets because the magnet on this one's going to go underneath the pocket, and then I have a photo mat here, and my magnet's going to go on top of this paper but underneath that photo mat. So we'll do that in the next video. And so now we're moving on to page number 5. So page number 5 is this paper here. This I used all 5 pieces of paper that come in the 8x8 pad. So I did the same thing like I did on page 1 and 2. I cut from top to bottom 7 inches, and then this page I went from left to right and cut 5 inches, and on the second sheet of paper I went top to bottom 7 inches and then went right to left 5 inches. So you can see here I have that pear that's on the edge here. So I cut 5 inches over this way on the second piece of paper, and on the first piece of paper you can see the pumpkin there. I cut 5 inches that way. Okay. Oh, and I told you wrong. I did not cut this one from top to bottom. I started from the bottom to the top. Okay. I started from bottom to top 7 inches, and then I cut 5 and 5. So I cut this piece off. So I went from bottom to top. I went from here to here 7 inches, and then I did 5 from each side. Okay, because I wanted this design on the bottom. Okay, and then these 2 pieces of paper you can cut from anything that's left over that has, or anything left over in your 8x8 pad that has, which paper has this? This paper here, you've cut 3 pieces. You're going to be using 3 pieces of this paper for page number 3. And but you'll have 2 left over with this pattern, so you can cut your 4x6 cards out of this, or what I did, because I'm lazy, and even though these journaling cards are beautiful, I don't need that many. I'm just not going to need all of them, and they all have the same pattern on the back. And so just pick a couple that you're not going to use. I think there's 3 of each. So if you have one that you're not going to use more than one, those would be the ones that I would cut at or pull out and use. So, and what I did is I did distress the edges, and then I used a cereal box. I cut a cereal box that's just slightly smaller than 4x6 and mounted these cards onto the cereal box just to give a little depth. I did add a little bit of distress ink, and so that was all there was to that, and then I went and embellished from there, but we're not going to do the embellishing today. So the 2 sheets of paper and then your 2 4x6 cards, or if you want to use one of these papers, you just cut it down the middle at 4, or cut it at 6 first and then cut it down the middle at 4, and then you have your 2 4x6. Okay, so the last two pages, 7 and 8. So, let's see, you're going to take, you've already taken one piece of paper and trimmed 2 inches off, okay? So just what you have left on that first piece of paper, just set aside. On your second piece of paper, you're going to cut a 5 by 7, and on your third piece of paper, you're going to cut a 5 by 7, okay? So it doesn't matter from where you start, as long as obviously it's your 7 inches is going from either top to the bottom. Then you're cutting 5 inches from the side. And so that's 3, you're into 3 pieces of paper right now. And so on your fourth piece of paper, you're going to cut a piece that is 4 inches, and okay, this one, the fourth piece of paper is a little tricky to get everything out of this. So on the fourth piece of paper, you're going to cut 4 inches. It doesn't matter which side, as long as you're just cutting 4 inches. So you're cutting down the middle this way. And hang on, is that how I want to do this? Yes. Okay, so you're cutting 4 inches, and you're going to have it, and then I'm sorry, because I just want to make sure, I should have wrote my notes better. So on the fourth piece of paper, you're cutting down the middle at 4 inches. Then on the first one, you're going to cut the length at 6.5. So you're cutting over 4 inches, and then you're turning it over and cutting 6.5. Okay, just the one side. And so you're going to have a piece that's 4 inches by 6.5. And we're going to make this pocket here. So this is going to be for page 8. And oh, and I should have told you, on this paper, on this page, you're using this side. On this page, I used this side. Okay, on the 5 by 7 pieces. Okay, so to do this little pocket, you are going to need a ruler, which I did not mention at the beginning. Okay, well, I don't know where my ruler is. There it is. I know I had it sitting right here somewhere. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to measure on the left side, you're going to measure 1.5 inches from the bottom to make a little mark, 1.5 inches. And then on the top, you're going to flip it around. So you're measuring from bottom towards the middle, 1.5 inches. On this side, you're going to measure from the right to the left. So I'm going to measure from right to left, 1.5 inches. Okay, so I've measured here 1.5 and here 1.5. So then I'm going to take my trimmer now. If you need to draw, there's 2 ways. If you can't see it on your trimmer, I can see where I'm going to be cutting with this little wire on my cutter. If your cutter's different and you can't see it, then just take your ruler and go to the edge of that hash mark on the edge of the paper, to the edge of this paper, and then just draw a line, and that's where you're going to cut. Then you're just going to take that line and line it up in your cutter and cut that off. I don't do that because I can see on my cutter with that wire, I can see where my marks are. can see usually, except that paper's dark and I can't see that line. There we go. Okay. Okay, so that's my pocket. Okay, and then you're going to distress your pocket with the scissors on all four sides, and use your scattered straw or whatever ink that you're choosing to use, and then you're going to, and I would do this, but I haven't decided what, I don't have the trim that I'm going to be using in my book. Then you're going to take your lace or your trim, whatever you're using, or you don't have to have trim there. If you don't want trim there, you don't have to. You're just going to glue your trim onto the back side so that it's peeking out of your pocket. And then I just glued the two sides. I glued here, put a little bead of glue here and here, and then just glued it on. Once I had my 5x7 paper down, I just glued that on. So I'm going to take this out of the way. So make sure you glue this down first and then glue this. Don't forget to distress and ink and everything. So that's that paper. Just before I forget, and this will be probably the last thing that we cover so far, or second to the last thing. So your other piece of, the other side of this piece of paper, you're going to cut at 6 inches, and so that's going to give you a, I'm sorry, you're going to cut it at 5.5, and that's going to give you a 4 by 5.5 inch piece is what I put here. And I just glued trim onto it, and I did corner around the edges and put the trim on, and I just tucked it in here. So I just glued this 5x7 down, and then I glued a 4x6 journaling card down, and I added my laces to the bottom before I glued it down. Then I glued it down here. Then I added the rickrack, and then I added my trim and my butterfly. And this, I just added the trim here and added it there. So this is a 4 by 5.5, and it came from the other side of this. Okay, so that's your fourth piece of paper. So, and then your second pocket, so I think I've covered everything. So your your third piece of paper is one that you cut it in half. You cut it in half at 4 inches, and no, I'm sorry. That piece of paper, the piece that I had, the 4x6s in here, you cut a 2-inch strip off the bottom for your pocket. Then the rest of the piece that's left over, you want to cut, you have an 8 by 6 inch piece left. You just cut that in half lengthwise, and that's your two 4x6 pieces that's set inside the pocket. So I hope I'm not confusing everybody. Let's just go over this one more time. So you need 2 pieces of paper at 5x7. One you're gluing this way, the other one you're gluing this way. Okay. Your second piece, or your third piece of paper, you're cutting at 4 inches, and then at 6.5, and then you're going to make the pocket like I showed. Then the other side, you are cutting it at 5.5, you've already got the 4 inches, so you're cutting it at 5.5 and corner rounding the edges for this little tuck-in piece. Then you're cutting, so that's 3 pieces of paper. Your 4th piece of paper you cut at 2 inches along here, along the bottom, and one side you that strip you cut at 5 inches, and that's one side or one pocket. Then the remaining paper is already cut at 6 it's already 6 inches. So you're just cutting that in half, and that's the pieces that go in here. So you have 2 4x6 pieces that I set somewhere to get them out of the way. Now I don't know where I put them. So to make your, then you have 1 piece of paper left, okay? So you're gonna cut that at 2 inches and then at 5 inches, and that's your second pocket. Then the remaining piece you should have an 8 by 6 inch piece of paper, and that I cut that to, I think, 3 inches, and that's going on the bottom of the board here. So that used all 5 of this piece of, or this design of paper in the 8x8 pad, okay? So it's really important that you cut that one like I've described. So I hope if you have any questions, please, and I will try to return the comment as soon as possible. Okay, so then once you cut your, so that's it. I think I'm going to wait for that other step for the next video because I'm going to use a scrap piece of paper. So once you've got all your papers in, and one thing I do want to mention is on this piece of paper, when you've cut from 5 inches over here and then 5 inches over here, you're going to have a strip in the middle. And also on this paper here, you're going to have some paper left over because we cut from this side and then we cut from this side, so we have the middle left. That's how I got the paper for my gussets here. And so it's a 1/2 inch, so you're going to want to cut at a little bit less than 3/8, or I'm sorry, a little bit less than half and a little bit more than 3/8, kind of in between 3/8 and 1/2. You might need to adjust it, so take your ruler and measure it first before you cut, because your book might be just slightly different. And then you're just going to distress the edges and glue those down into the gussets there. And then you'll have all the backing papers in your book, except for the covers. And so the back cover, I use this paper here, and I cut it from bottom to top at 7 inches because I wanted the fox right here, and then I cut 5 inches over this way so that I have this fox right here. And then the cover, I cut from top to bottom 7 inches and from right to left at 5 inches to get the cover. And then you're going to use one more piece of this paper for your board or your plaque. And I just used the full 8x8 and distressed the edges, and once I had this paper glued down, then I put this over that. But we'll talk more about that in the next video. So anyway, so you got some homework. So if you get that far, and I will do my book with my papers that far, and then we will finish the rest and do some. I will explain how I did the embellishing and go from there. All right. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any concerns or questions, please leave a comment, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Okay. Thanks. Bye.